Woke up a
Yeah,
little late this morning, but I'm awake.
so glad you could make it. And we're live, by the way. So good morning, Amber. Good morning, Nicole. It's
Good
so great
morning,
to be
everybody
here.
in Tattoo Land.
Yeah, in Tattoo Land too. Good morning, chat. Yeah, if you're in the chat, let us know if this is working for you, and maybe where you're watching us from. That's always fun to see. Um, so Nicole was just telling me about that she went to the Philadelphia convention
Yep.
and
Oh, I'm so
came
jealous.
back and came back inspired and has drawn all this amazing uh, traditional flash we're checking out here. I'm gonna spotlight your page. So cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
So
look
when you were
awesome.
there, yeah, they are. It's very neat. So when you were laying it out, did you just like piece it together like this went here and that went there, or did you plan out the composition of your page here at all?
I planned it out using Procreate
Okay.
because that was one of my struggles. Like I didn't know where to put where. So yeah, I used Procreate to kind of lay things out, and then just drew everything by hand.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice mixture. You're able to
Mhm.
sort of go from the digital side, create something
Mhm.
physical,
Yeah.
and there's a nice rhythm to the pieces. Looks
Definitely.
like a looks like a lot of panthers and stuff as well. It's sort of like a theme that ties everything together, which is really cool.
Yeah, I found this picture frame from thrift shop that has this cool black frame, black rim or frame around it. So I wanted to do a Black Panther themed flash.
Hell yeah. Oh, very cool. Um, and so yeah, I'm like it's so awesome that you were able to get to the convention as well. Amber, I know you were planning on you didn't get to make it to the
I
convention this
did
time. I
not
know you were
make it.
talking about it.
I wound up with a weekend packed full of stuff I had to take care of, so I did not get to make it. I just keep
Ah,
telling myself next year I'll get there. Next year I'll get there. And there's a lot of
cool.
conventions between now and then that I will get to.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I didn't make it there either, so I hear you. I definitely understand that. A weekend full of stuff for sure. So,
Yeah,
but how's the apprenticeship going? How's the new shop?
it is amazing. It
Awesome.
it's amazing how being in an environment that's creative, being around other creatives helps you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it does not feel like work in any way, shape, or form. So
oh, that's great.
even
That
when
is
I'm
really great.
packaging stuff out of the ultrasound machine, it does not feel like work at all. I'm just like, yay, I'm in a shop.
That's a
Are
great
you an
attitude.
ultrasound tech?
I'm working on becoming a piercer and a tattooer.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm being trained in piercing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely
And
feel you on that. I'm a pharmacist, so every time I'm at the shop, I have way more fun.
That's yeah, that's what an interesting sort of jump from pharmacology to the world of tattooing. But so were there any sort of skills that were applicable, Nicole? Like, like things that you learned in school that now they're helping you like as you're getting into tattooing?
Oh, I think definitely like sterility or like anatomy component helps a lot. And just the experience of like customer service or like patient care, bedside manner, things like that is definitely helpful. I've always regretted not going to art school because I do love like drawing and stuff. So I kind of thought about that for many years, and like with the whole pandemic, I figured I should like give this side a try, and then if it doesn't work out, then I can always fall back on pharmacy. But thankfully, like the doors opened up for tattoo side, so yeah, that's where I am, just transitioning. Yep.
Oh, good for you. And I think that's it's really awesome that you're I like you were talking about like bedside manner and sort of just caring about the customer, client,
Hmm.
patient,
Yeah.
whatever, you know what I mean, whatever we're calling them.
Yeah.
We gotta care about them.
Hmm.
And sometimes they really do need our guidance. So it's and they're also, they kind of need us to, um, to be able to be there for them as they're going through this journey, right? Like, whether they're like in the case of pharmacology, you probably have to talk to lots of people who are on medication. They're maybe dealing with something.
Hmm.
But tattooing, it's like can be a very like extreme and painful process to go through.
Hmm.
So yeah, so they need our care, right? They need our
Yeah.
concern, and I think that's that's really important. So hey,
I
good
found
morning,
that to be a
Spirit.
very transferable skill
Morning.
from me
Yeah,
working with special needs kids for 20 years. I found that, you know, all kinds of transferable skills. I had to be trained in bloodborne pathogens and first aid. So that
Yeah,
transferred
exactly.
over to tattooing quite easily.
yeah,
And when I worked with a lot of juvenile delinquents, so I really had to kind of have crisis intervention skills and ways to de-escalate people and convince them that what they're going to do was their idea
Hmm.
when dealing with clients. So that transferred very well to dealing with clients and tattooing.
excellent.
Hmm.
Well, hey, I want to say good morning to Stephen and Spirit just showed up. It's great to have everybody here today.
Good
Welcome.
morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good
Yes.
morning.
So
We
we
got a
were
new
just
person, Nicole. Hello. I love the
Hello.
flash.
How
yeah.
are you?
Here, it's so cool. We'll do it again. We'll spotlight it again. Yeah, check out Nicole's flash. It's very
It's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
trying to do more traditional pieces to get down like muscle memories and good lines and all that stuff.
That's great.
Right. We were talking about just, sort of briefly like how a lot of this the American traditional flash was really sort of designed with tattooing in mind. Like how you can, like the movements of the hand and just sort of efficiency, let's say.
Hmm.
Efficiency. Even like something that something it's not how I work, but this was something I was talking about with a colleague that we were discussing like traditional techniques, and the old timers, as we refer to them, they would always have they would make the nickel gap in their
Yeah.
between their spring and the contact point, right?
Uh-huh.
So they could actually set the tube as like a depth guide. So this is a technique called riding the tube. So you just sort of stretch you out and boom, they'll nail you.
God,
This
that
line
brings
is,
back flashbacks.
yeah, it's consistent. You know what I mean? But you really can't see what you're doing. So you have to, sort of there's a beauty to it, but rudimentary, right? Sort of line and sort of, pattern and stuff that happens. Again, it
Hmm.
can be like, but it's, uh, anymore, I really sort of tattoo with a lot of needle exposed. I like to sort of see where I'm working, um, and I do a lot of building up of lines rather than sort of single pass sort of thing. That's the um, I think that's really the way it was the way I was taught. It's sort of it's a sort of a method that um, that Guy Aitchison, he espouses this. But I think too, it's like, there's always pros and cons with any sort of approach. And everybody has to figure out like what it is that, what it is that works for them personally, and for their tattooing practice. But yeah, I think it is good, to sort of to explore history, right? To explore all, as many different techniques and approaches as you can. Well, let me do this. Let me do these announcements, and that way we can get on with the show. So here, I'll share this now, and boom, cool. So hopefully you're seeing reinventingthetattoo.com right now. And so good morning, everyone, and welcome to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo community, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are all encouraged to join in these live stream and real-world events. Our aim and goal is to inspire and ultimately create better art and tattoos together. We beam out nearly every single day, and with your help, we've evolved into an amazing network of quality live and on-demand shows. We've been receiving rave reviews, and you can always find out more at reinventingthetattoo.com, which is what I'm showing you right now. So you can also find us on all the app stores, the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store. You can also find us we have a Roku channel as well. So you can find that at reinventingthetattoo.com/Roku. You can also find us on all the major podcast directories, including Apple and Spotify. But no matter where you're watching us from, you can always find the latest and greatest here at reinventingthetattoo.com. Let's see. So we have a number of weekly stable shows. I'm showing those shows right now. So on Sundays at 1 p.m. on Sundays, we have the Sunday Skill Building Drawing Group hosted by Jason Leeser. On Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern, we have Drawing for Tattooers hosted by James Wisdom. That's me, and you are here. That's followed at 11 a.m. Eastern, the Tattoo Weekly, hosted by Gabe Ripley, Lauren Gregory, and Jake Meeks. At 9 p.m. Eastern, Mondays, we have the subscribers exclusive drawing group hosted by Guy Aitchison, Sandy McAndrew, and I think maybe Bob Tyrell tonight. Actually, I believe.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm not sure if. Hopefully, that was the hope that he was going to be able to make it tonight. So very cool. It's a really cool program. So consider it, right? Consider signing up for that. It's a very cool group. Nicole's in the group, Steven's in the group, so it's a great place to meet other like-minded artists as well. So consider that. On Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, we have Tuesday Feeling drawing group hosted by Ricardo Sturdivant, and a very cool segment last week. Ricardo was doing a tattoo with Guy Aitchison. So it was so cool to see that. Tattoo was amazing. So be sure to check out that episode, and then always, it's always great to catch up with the whole gang. Let's see. Right. So right now I'm showing this is the Reinventing 24/7 replays, right? So you can sort of check out if it finishes loading ever, you can you can check out some of our old stuff. It's kind of running 24 hours a day, so you could just put it on in the background and go. And then here's our event schedule, so you can see things that are coming up. And I think on the 30th, I don't know if it's listed. There's another paint night with Renee Little, so definitely check that out as well.
Oh, I plan on having paint night tonight.
Yeah, do you go to the paint nights, don't you, Amber? How
Yes,
is
it's
that?
so much fun.
It's so much
Renee is
fun.
awesome.
I love painting. I'd love to check it out. So I'm I'm
And
very
you don't
interested
even
in it.
have to be painting as long as you're creating something. That's all that needs to be happening.
Yeah. Well,
Good
it sounds
morning.
like a really great sort of environment. Hey, Elise, good morning. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we got Elise here with us. I'm gonna finish up these announcements right now, and then we'll get on with it. So anyway, we just want to sort of thank our sponsors, and let's scroll down here, right? So Tattoo Now has all of the most cutting edge upgrades and technology for all of your communication needs. So if you really want to take your communication to the next level, make sure to contact Tattoo Now, ask for Gabe. And then, of course, we want to thank Guy Etchison for being the founder and the inspiration behind this Reinventing the Tattoo community. You can learn more about Guy Etchison at guyetchison.com. So there you can find original paintings, you can find prints, you can find coil machines, as well as other educational content. So it's a very cool site. So be sure to check out guyatchison.com, reinventingthetattoo.com, and my website, tattooingwisdom.com. I'm always working on it, so so be sure to come check it out. It's powered by Tattoo Now. So um, anyway, uh, I just want to say thanks again, and let me stop sharing this. Okay, and we're back. So good morning, gang. It's so great to have everybody here today.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Monday. That's true.
I never thought I'd think a Monday was happy.
Right.
I always think about
20
that
years of
movie.
getting up at 5 a.m. and I never thought a Monday would be happy, but I enjoy Mondays now.
Yeah. I think about that movie, Office Space, where that guy says somebody's got a case of the Mondays. It's like, yeah, it is. It's your attitude about it, right? And so yeah, I look forward to Mondays as well, right? Getting a chance to see all of you and to draw and to talk about art and stuff, tattooing. Um, it's a great space, and so I'm really yeah, I'm super grateful, and I'm really glad everybody could make it today. We've been catching up with everybody. Elise, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. My life's boring right now. I'm just working on portfolio stuff still.
Cool. Yeah.
I have taught myself how to weave though. I taught myself how to weave yesterday on a loom.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah.
God, I haven't done that in years.
I know. I tried to learn when I was little because some little boy grandma came in and she knew how to like make yarn from scratch, like spin her own yarn and all of that. And she had like this big weaving loom. So my mom bought me one, but it was way too complicated for how young I was. So now I found it again. So I revisited it yesterday.
Nice.
No, that is nice. Yeah, we were talking about last week, we were talking about like other creative outlets and things like, stuff that you do that's creative. And so I, I really appreciate that. I guess I like to read and write philosophy. And so
Hmm.
these are things that I find as a creative outlet. There's kind of there's kind of a, um, I guess I do relate it to my art practice, or, the things I do for, like, in terms of drawing. I can't help it. I always relate those things. So even if I was going to work on a loom, or if I was going to, like, I don't know, like write a shopping list or whatever. I'm still to think of it like, sort of a process, sort of gathering the information and trying to put it together into some way that's uh, can be useful later, right?
Mm.
Hmm.
So
Is
anyway,
it
these
more
are
like,
just
oh,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, is it more like the morality of it that intrigues you, or the reasons why people choose like like your grocery list, organic versus conventional, or
That's funny. No, I like that. That is interesting. It's I guess I believe that is, there's a bit of our ideology is sort of mixed into that, right? And that's the part that you don't realize it. That's what makes it ideological. You don't know, it's why would you buy organic versus non-organic or something like that? And it would have to do with what you believe in, and then also like I think that spans so much of what we do, maybe everything that we do. It's about your values, you know, and so what you value and how you ascribe meaning to things. So it's yeah, I think there's all kinds of ways to think about stuff, and so these are things that interest me, and that's why I also like to I like to have these sort of spaces where we get to talk about like what you all think, what you're interested in, and how you go about doing things. So these are I feel like I always learn so much from our Monday morning get-togethers. So these
Me
are
too.
I
Me
appreciate that.
three.
No, I really do appreciate that. I hope that it is that way for all of you, that like you feel like you know that we're in this together. We're just trying to express what we got, but then also we're taken in, right? We're getting absorbed in the process, and it's kind of there's a mutual benefit, that we all get
definitely.
from being here. So, and then also everybody that's listening, right? Everybody, if you're checking this out, if this is something that you enjoy, you know, um, make sure to like and subscribe, because that really helps us out. And then also, it's and join us sometime too. It really is a pleasure, right? To
Yeah.
to hear new voices and hear from new people. So
And liking and subscribing and commenting helps this reach more people
yeah,
Yeah, it really does
of
go a
the
long
like
way.
mind.
it does. Yeah, that's your call to action, right?
Yeah.
You gotta
That
Right.
like
that
and subscribe
that's
it.
how you help the algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned that recently. Every time I see one of the videos, I make sure I press like.
Thank you.
Sometimes
That's
I'll
good.
let them run in the background while I'm doing other stuff just to make sure they get more views so they reach more
Oh, that's
people.
good.
Plus,
Good.
sometimes I miss things in the conversation that are really good nuggets of information. And while I'm
Mm.
doing other stuff, it'll get in my brain and I'll be like, you know what? I didn't really think of it that way earlier. And I missed that in the conversation.
I wish we could
Mm.
do that for all conversations.
Seriously, I'm a space
Yes.
cadet, boy. I'd be zoning out. It's terrible. That's my wife.
It-
That's bad.
well, so I was on Instagram, and I saw that you, Spirit, were
Oh,
moving
Yeah,
shops. Is
dude.
that right?
Yeah,
How's
yeah. I
that? How
moved.
was that?
Oh man. Oh
Nice.
God. It is. I love the shop that I'm working at now. It is. I've only been there for a weekend, but just my first weekend, I was like, "This is it. I'm not going nowhere no time soon."
Isn't
And
that an awesome feeling?
oh, Amber, like it's one of those. I've been at the same shop, this other shop for like 14 years. And
Uh,
I have worked at other shops, and I have been around other artists. But it's just really nice because like so the shop that I kind of came from, um, it was a street shop, you know, um, street shop, and you got to hustle, and you got to do your thing. You got to really put your name out there. But this shop that I'm at now, like it's a custom shop, so they really like the shop owner really goes a really long way to make sure his artists are happy, make sure we're always having business, make sure that all artists are always talking to each other, sharing information, and just being good people and just really care about tattooing. And before, like I said before, it was kind of like just me. Excuse me, I keep vibrating, but it was kind of just me at the shop. Just kind of me at the old shop. But now it's like I'm kind of like the lower man on the totem pole as far as skill is concerned, and I just think that's great. And then the people who haven't been tattooing as long as I have, so I just think that that's just great because I'm able to, because they're very generous with their information. They're not closed off with it. They all want to teach. They all want to like learn and all that good stuff. So I'm an open book. When the student's ready, the teacher appears, and I'm ready.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy for you.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Elise. Yeah,
I know exactly how you feel.
It's dope. It's really dope.
It makes you look forward to waking up in the morning, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. The booth that I'm in is like the shop itself is like really small, and so that like it's very intimate. You know what I mean? Like, all of our coworkers were able to just see each other and just talk to each other immediately, and I can butt in your conversation, they can butt in our conversation. You know what I'm saying? So I just like the synergy. It's just really nice. It's really nice. I'm excited about it. I really am. And that's kind of taken on my drawing mojo. I just been, working on moving in and stuff like that, and I haven't really been working on my art. But that's how it goes sometimes.
It does go that way sometimes. I think it's right. Nothing wrong with it. It becomes sort of this something you just pick it back up, right? It falls off, you just pick it back up. It's, don't feel bad about it, and just continue as soon as you are able to do so. I think that has to be our outlook on it. You know what I mean? Because that's just the way things go. You know what I mean? It really goes that way. So whether it's, I'm talking to myself right now too, like whatever it is, like you start getting a good habit, you start doing it, you start doing well at it, and then, life happens, things get in the way. Well, just pick it back up as soon as you can, right? Yeah. I think, and that's probably a part of the, it has to be a part of like, maturity. You're maturing, and then it's how you are able to sort of deal with the setbacks. And again, I'm talking to myself.
Get back on the horse.
Get back on the horse. I mean, life is about ebb and flow anyway. Things, we breathe. The tides come in and out. There's day and night. There's cycles. You know what I mean? So I think we should embrace that mentality as well, James. I think that's a really good outlook on it. Yeah.
So I'm glad that you were able to prioritize things and get things going and get to a new space. And now, so if you're feeling like you want to draw more. I think that's what I try to tell myself too, because I'm not perfect by any means, nor do I do it exactly how I want to all the time. It just doesn't work out that way. So I think we can all relate. We can all relate to that. I believe so. But yeah. So Stephen, how are things with you?
Muted. Pretty well. I'm just kind of sketching around on this cover up for this evening, trying to tighten that up at the moment, and listening to you guys.
Oh, excellent. So in our reinventing drawing group that we're in, we had a project, right? An assignment to sort of tackle, like covering up some old outlines. It was kind of themed around like feathers, birds, or something like that. I'm working on mine. I'm still working on mine. But where are you at with yours, Stephen? Could you show it
sure.
to us real quick?
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
And I definitely will.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Is this upside down?
If you
I believe
can
it's
turn,
sideways.
yeah, it's sideways. Yeah.
Got a little,
Oh,
Yeah, we can see it.
yeah. So
So it's like, go ahead. I want to talk. I'll let you talk about it.
all right, so I'm just doing like almost like an outer space idea here with maybe like an angel wing thought. I had a moon located in this location, but it didn't work for the cover up. So I'm going to have to adjust the size of that and replace it. And I can bring up all the existing tattoos there. So that's what we were originally working with. And James, I know you're familiar with this, but
Mhm.
you know, not you kind of
Nice.
Sandy had made the suggestion
Mm.
to do like the the layers of shapes and the feathers here. So I think that
Mhm.
so that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah. No, very cool. I guess I'm thinking too. It's like, there there's actually a lot of texture that's going on, and with a few, would take a few passes, but like I think it could very well, work out really nicely. Especially with some, just some really well placed sorts of dark areas and things. So yeah, that's rad.
Yeah, I think that does a really good job at covering it up.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to incorporate as much outer space and cover ups as possible. Generally, people are open to it anyway. So
beautiful.
It is beautiful. It almost always happens though. Like, even the, like, you're going to have a cover up, there's going to be a little bit that shows through. I don't think,
Mhm.
it's almost like you can't get away from it. Um,
Well, you just tell
uh,
people if they're looking that close, you got a problem.
yeah.
Yeah. Why are you
Yeah.
that close to my tattoo? Come on.
Yeah.
It really is.
I love
It's
people who just come up and touch my tattoos.
Oh,
Oh, that's
well,
awesome. I'm like,
no.
this is
Heck
my
no.
body. I get that I have great art, but would you walk into the Louvre and touch Mona Lisa?
yeah. I mean, I've had that with my hair too. So it's
Oh
when
my
people
gosh.
yeah, it was a lady at a grocery store and she's like, I love your hair. And she just
Oh
fully
my
Mhm.
gosh. I would
Mhm.
like, oh, nope. I
yeah.
was always
No.
afraid of people doing that when I was pregnant, like people grabbing my belly, but thankfully that never happened.
Yeah, people would
Yeah.
rub
I've
my
heard of that
I
belly
do
when I was
happening.
not do well
pregnant,
with
too.
touches.
Like, I got to know you really well for you to be in my personal bubble like that.
Right.
Or you
Yeah,
got to
it
be
Really.
my
does
tattoo
that.
artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
consent, right? It's
Yeah.
consent. Consent is the name of the
Respect.
game. Yeah.
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
Yeah, respectful. Yeah, respect all, and then through the consent. And so yeah, no, that is like some of those examples are so, it's so weird, right? How we feel so drawn to things. I know, like, you have to resist that urge, but when I am in the museum, it's like, you almost you want to
I know
touch,
it's
you
so
want to touch the
tactile
paintings,
looking
right? Hmm.
sometimes.
Well, it's like, so what are you doing with your eyes, right? Your eyes touch, right? That's
Yeah.
how we touch through looking. It's as strange as that sounds, right? There is a gap, right? There's a space between, but it really is like, it really is like a form of touching. And so, when we're very young, that's a part of how we learn about the world, right? Grab stuff if you can, and you feel it, and then what do? You want to eat it, right? So right away, you want to taste it. So it's sensorial, right? There's all these our senses are all mixed up in our understanding. We want to understand,
Yeah.
and so we look, and it's like, again, it's sort of, it's a mediation of touching, and then also a mediation of consumption in some way. It's very strange, how it's very strange if you think about it, I think. But yeah, that has to be the probably the limit.
I
Yeah.
can
But don't
understand
touch.
wanting to touch artwork because, I've wanted to touch everything Gustav Klimt ever did. It just looks
Oh, he's
so
my favorite
tactile.
artist. Yes.
It just looks like it should be touched. But,
Mm.
hands off. It's a work of art. I get it, but
Amazing.
it does look
Yeah.
very tactile.
It's kind of like those intrusive thoughts, like the kids eating Tide Pods. Like, it's not food, but it looks so edible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like those people that eat soap or toilet paper
Yeah.
and they can't help themselves.
Yeah. For some reason, to them, it just looks so edible, and you can't help it. I don't know.
Like my daughter when she
Yeah.
was born.
Mm.
She looked and smelled like cake, and I just wanted to.
Well, babies are
Oh
so
my
yummy.
god!
Babies
Oh,
have such an awesome smell. It's just,
yeah, they do.
I've
Yes,
heard everyone
are
say
yummy.
that. I've never smelled a baby.
you gotta
Oh,
just get it.
I think it might have to
they're
be
so
your
yummy.
baby.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
heard that it could be anybody's.
it's
Oh
like a
yeah.
pheromonal thing.
Yeah.
Though. Be careful.
My
Because
my one
a
teacher
good
said that
baby
I have
smell
to
can
do it.
make
I have
you
to go
want a
find a
baby.
baby.
A good baby smell can make you want a baby. So be careful.
Yeah, seriously. I can't wait for my wife is pregnant now. I cannot wait to smell like it again.
It's baby
Oh,
number.
Well, it's number 6 for us.
Oh
Wow.
my.
goodness gracious.
I'm having a blast.
You really do like
3
that new baby
grandchildren is
smell.
like herding baby goats. I can imagine what that's like.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Love being a dad.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
congratulations.
It's
That's
very much.
amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
New
Awesome.
baby, new shop. You're moving up, mister.
I know, Amber. It feels so amazing. I know, it's so great. It's exciting.
So cool. Yeah, and I guess, yeah, that's how can you follow that, right? That's amazing. I guess I'm just sort of uh, it's so interesting, you know, what everybody's going through, right? Like all these changes, all these sort of new things, um, and still we are who we are, right? We have to go through all of these sorts of trials, tribulations, joys and pains and all that stuff, but we're still somehow this consistent sort of us. You still are yourself, and so I guess I just again, it's so fascinating to learn about other people, and so fascinating to me to sort of to hear like what you said about baby smell. Like I don't know
Yeah,
about that. I don't know anything about it, but I believe you. I believe that it must be true. So fascinating, and I'm
yeah, it's so fascinating.
so no, congratulations on that. I think it's really wow. No, it's
Thanks,
amazing to
man.
hear. No, yeah, seriously. Well, so on with the art, right? Talk about art today.
Hey, let's talk.
So I had again, just to sort of recap a little bit about what we're talking about, where we're at. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about this idea: point, line, and plane, right? So again, these are they are something visual, right? So a line is just an extension of point, right? So if a point just keeps going, right, it becomes this line. But of course, it starts at a point, it ends at a point. So there is a relationship. If you connect lines together, you start to get planes, right, or shape, right? What we were sort of leading into was this idea of shape value, and edge. Again, I think these are sort of it's a triadic structure, three things that are helpful conceptually for us to start to think about. So when we're talking about like designing anything, we probably want to start thinking about it in terms of its positive negative relationship, dark and light. This is value structure. But again, we have to start somewhere. So we're going to end up sort of starting with a point. So there's a sort of movement that happens where we want to sort of think about something towards the end, but we have to start somewhere and start to develop it out. And so what I'm hoping to start to talk about a little bit is thumbnail sketches. Thumbnail sketches are design sketches that that artists use, and in this way, we start to think about composing things. And again, I think we're gonna apply all of these concepts to it: point, line, plane, shape, value, edge. They're all going to be useful and mixed in there. And so I think that, again, like sort of thinking about like how do we think about thumbnail sketches? I like to think about perspective first. I really do. I like to think about perspective, and I think that perspective is is crucial, and it's probably one of these things that's it's really good to start to internalize it and then try to let it go as much as possible. I know that may sound funny, but working through perspective, like thinking about how perspective may work, can be really valuable, especially when you want to try to draw something that you wanted to really convey a sort of sense of presence, that there's this thing and it exists in a certain amount of space. There's a lot of different ways to convey this, right? This is what perspective is about. And so, the way that you get it like out of your imagination onto paper, right, is through thumbnail sketches. So, where to begin? So I wanted to sort of start off, and I want to share this. I've talked about this before, but let me see if I can share this with you all. Yeah. So, cool. So hopefully you can see my screen. So this is a section of the book Perspective for Architects and Artists by Gwen White. It is a very complicated book, but if you're really interested in this subject, I think it can be a really valuable resource for you. So something to consider. But the beginning, I think, was put so like eloquently and just sort of in these simple cartoons. I always return to it, you know what I mean, to kind of help ground myself, if you will, in in how to think about perspective. So just a sort of a brief, I want to go over a few pages of this. And what I'm hoping to sort of get to is this idea of the picture plane. So if you're familiar with the picture plane, or if you've heard it before and you're like, what does that mean? I think, again, it can be a really valuable thought and a really valuable concept. And then again, plane, right? We're trying to tie some concepts together, and hopefully they'll be helpful for us. So, all right, so I'm going to read through this, and the pictures are here. So if you're just listening and you can't see the pictures, hopefully the descriptions will be magic, and you can sort of see them in your mind's eye, right? All right, so the ground plane, talking about this sort of introduction to perspective, to parallel perspective, right? So imagine that you're standing on the ground and that a small piece of which you are on is a big flat plane, right? It has no ending, right? And it's flat as far as you can see. So you're standing out on some great plain somewhere, some sort of, it's just everywhere you look at the horizon looks flat, right? That's the image we're seeing, and that's the sort of the concept to start with. Okay. On this flat plane, I've drawn a road. It's a long straight road. It goes way far off into the distance. And as it goes away, right, it gets narrower and narrower. It's going to appear to converge at a point somewhere on the horizon. So we can see this illustration here, the horizon. Okay. And now if we see you, or see yourself, right, the thought is that like you can see this road and it's heading back off into the distance, right, as far as you can see it. Here's where it'll describe it a little bit more in detail, but if you look, it looks like this figure, that the horizon is at their eye level, right? You can see this is sort of like where their eyes might be. This is the concept of like a horizon, eye level. These terms are used interchangeably. And so as we're going through it, just to sort of hopefully to dispel any confusion at all, I like to use the term eye level because I think it's more succinct. Eye level means eye level. It's the height of your eye, right? However tall this person is, right? Their eye level is where it's where you see the edge of the world, if you like, right? That's just particular. It's how we see things. Again, a lot of times the horizon is sort of obfuscated. There's buildings, there's mountains or trees or anything. But eye level is the height of your eye. That's the sort of the way to think about it. And so this is what this is illustrating, right? You're standing on the ground, however tall you are, right? If you could see the horizon, this would be the indication of your eye level. So let's go on to the next slide.
Could you zoom out to that
Yeah.
first page? I just wanted to take a screenshot of it.
Yeah, sure. Is that good for you?
Maybe zoom up.
You want to see the top of it?
So it is. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, here. So here's the beginning.
Okay. All right, I'm good. And you can go down to the other guy.
I'm gonna be out there.
Yeah, that's perfect. Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'll wax your spot. I love the legs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Right. So this is sort of a further illustration of what we were talking about in terms of the eye level and the horizon line, right? So supposing that you looked at the flattest, longest, straightest road that you could find, and you held up a pencil in front of your face and left it level with your eyes, you would see the pencil exactly covered up the distant horizon. You would discover that the horizon was on a level with your eyes, and that it coincided with your eye level. That's basically what we were talking about. You have your eye level, and then the horizon. They become the same thing, right? So, all right. This same thing would happen if you were standing by the sea, the ocean. I used to live in Chicago. You could see it at the Great Lake, right? So Lake Michigan. And so here's something that I've always found sort of fascinating, this fascinating idea of eye level. So here's this illustration. I'll zoom in a little bit here. So we've got a small child, right? They're standing on the beach and they look and they see the sea, right? You see the water level. Their horizon is there. Now, take that same individual, right? And you lift them up real high. Guess what? The eye level goes up with you. So I kind of felt this as a sort of personally. I was watching the White Sox play baseball, and so from where I was sitting in the stands, I could see over the wall, and I could see the lake, right? And it was at eye level. So even though it was I was fairly high up, I could sort of clearly see this flat level plane. If you start going up high enough, then, you know, it's like you start to see the curve of the earth. And so it starts to, you know, it starts to bow slightly, but again, like sort of right at your eye level, right, there's this sort of appearance of a horizon. And it goes up with you, right? Again, this is the idea of the height of your eye, right? From directly down wherever your feet are to, you know, to however tall up or however high up you are when you're sitting on, you know, when you're on the earth, you see this. If you were in outer space, you know, you wouldn't see the horizon, of course, but this concept of eye level still applies, right? There's still this sort of something that you're directing your vision towards, right? A point in space, right? You're looking at something. So when we're talking about, like, you know, a lot of times terrestrial, if we're drawing things in a space, drawing things here on planet Earth, this can be useful as far as, like, you know, how you can think about it. Okay. Again, it's like, so, a small child would see less than the grown up, and he would see, you know, more. So he would see more than ever if you walked up to the cliff, right? So this is known as the ground plane. It runs right up towards the distance of the horizon, right? So this idea, right? You're standing on the ground, right? It goes off to that imaginary horizon line. So even though there's this cliff and then the water is down lower, again, it's a height situation, right? It's a height thing. So you're seeing more of this ocean in this illustration, right? As far as the, you know, the relationship of the eye level to wherever you're standing, right? You're that much taller than, you know, than the level of the sea, but you can see more of the sea, right? But again, so you know, the author keeps illustrating this, you know, this concept of eye level. All right, top of a table. Again, it's very similar to the road example, right? Where the two edges are parallel. It's a table. The two edges are parallel, but they're appearing to converge at a single point on the eye level. But it's only so deep, right? So this table is only so big. So it doesn't go off forever. It just, you know, it does end at a certain place, right? All right, so tabletop like this, you can also see it's a flat plane. It appears to get closer together in the same manner as the road, right? Okay. Therefore, we know that the ground plane is a piece of land like this sort of plane that we were seeing you know, this little figure standing on, right? We leave it blank if we're going to draw, right? So again, if you're gonna lay something out, you could always sort of start off with this horizontal line, meaning the eye level. What this would tell you is whether you're looking at something you're looking down at slightly, right? Or you're looking up at slightly. So this eye level is an organizing principle. It can help you start to organize, you know, how would I draw this object? Am I looking up at the object or am I looking down at the object? It can be, so that would help you discern what plane of the object that you're looking at, where it's located. Okay, picture plane. Here we see this person, they're looking at a tree, right? Somewhere out in their vision, right? So imagine that every time you look at something between you and the scene, there's a sheet of glass, right? It's a vertical plane. Could be a window or transparent paper. Just imagine this, right? It's not real, but just imagine. There's something between you and whatever you're looking at. Much like a window, right? You're looking out the window and you can see the world there, but there, you know, you can see right through the window, but you know there's a plane there. There's a vertical plane. Okay? This imaginary vertical plane is known as the picture plane, right? What appears on the plane will be what you draw on your paper. So when the horizon is drawn on this plane, it will be known as the, you know, eye level horizon line, right? Yeah, don't worry about the technical stuff right now. If you were going to get this book and sort of what the author is doing is trying to set up for you, like, a lot of language that you'll end up using if, you know, when you're drawing very complicated perspective drawings. but just for the purposes of our discussion. Yeah,
Can we
please.
back up just like I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
I kind of got lost around the glass part.
Sure.
Okay, because I understood everything else. But the picture plane, every time you look at something that between you and the scene, there's a sheet of glass on the vertical, it could be a window or a large sheet of transparent paper. Okay, go ahead. All right, continue.
So yeah, this just to imagine that that's there, right?
Okay.
So again, it's like the way you could imagine it, you're looking out your window, right? Or if you're, again, you're not looking through a window actually, you can sort of imagine there's some point that you're going to start the drawing, right? And this is what.
Okay. There's a frame around what you're going to draw.
There's a distance between you and wherever you're gonna, whatever you're gonna draw. Well, but it'll hopefully this will help make this a little bit clearer. All right, so, but that's the thought, is like you're thinking about this plane, right? You're thinking about a plane. Okay. This imaginary plane is known as the picture plane. So what appears on the plane will be what you draw on your paper. Right. So here we can sort of see, we're looking at this person from a distance, right? But where from their perspective, we'll zoom in a little bit. From their perspective, when they're looking at this tree and they're drawing it on their picture plane, it's like this big, right? Hopefully that makes sense. It's like, so like wherever you're, from your point of view, from your perspective, you're looking at anything. Maybe you're looking at your iPad or your computer screen or something like that. But if you notice the objectness of it, right, whatever the shape is, and you imagine there's a picture plane. If you were going to draw a picture of it, you would trace out like its shape, right? So again, like if you're, if you get close to it, you can't see really, maybe you can't see the bottom of your keyboard, right? If you get further away, now I can see like the whole object, right? Same thing with this idea of this tree, right? If this person were, we get closer and closer, they may not see the trunk of the tree, let's say, hypothetically. All right, so suppose you're looking out of a ground floor window at a tree, stretch your arm out and draw the tree on the piece of glass. This is actually drawing on the picture plane. So again, here's the concept one more time, right? We're looking at this person, looking at a subject and drawing it. And so this is the concept that we want to sort of, to try to internalize, that we've got this picture plane between ourselves, what we're drawing. And that way, we start to so we can start to keep things in order. We start to keep things. So like if you were to sort of like, if you were to get close up and start to draw, right? And then go far back and start to draw, if you're not keeping this sort of consistent depth in mind, then proportions can get all out of whack, right? Especially if you're sort of drawing from life. And then I think too, it's probably the same thing if we're, even if we had a consistent shape and we're thinking about detail levels and things.
Is this
We're
kind of like
thinking about rendering.
Is this kind of like the same exploit people use when, like, this is a really weird example of it, but like, don't you know when people are at the Leaning Tower of Pisa and like one person's standing really close to the camera and then the Leaning Tower is really far away, like, because they're at different distances, it looks like someone's as big as the tower, but it's really just because they're at different distances that the proportions get skewed.
It is a perspective. It's an aspect of how perspective functions. Again, so the system that we're talking about here, it's convoluted, it's contrived, it's not real, but it's a way to start to get to the expression of the depth. And so what you're talking about, at least, is the same thing. We can use, this sort of trick of depth perception. Like you said, it looks like they're holding up the Tower of Pisa, or
would that be called forced perspective?
That's what this is called, right? We're sort
Okay.
of forcing a perspective, right? But yes, it's sort of like it's all the same. It is all a part of like the expression of how we can see things, how we can see like depth, the third dimension, height, width, right, and depth. Depth is the third one. And so again, it's like you can play these games and you can play these tricks on it because it is so weird, you know, how it starts to function. Again, it's like we really only can kind of conceive of things, or we can only really see in terms of two dimensions, height and width. But depth is described through value, through light and dark. So it's something that becomes understood, right, through our thinking. We can sort of understand it, or we get a sense that we understand it through the appearance of what we're taking in, and perspective it's a part of it. So yeah, that's what I would think of. That's what I would think of as forced perspective, is that you are drawing it to make it look like there's depth involved in it, forcing a perspective. But there's other words, foreshortening. It's sort of like when things are, you know, like let's say, you know, like, you know, the hand is a certain, you know, height and width. But if I like turn it like this way, right, coming at you, you know, all of a sudden, like, you know, this sort of, it starts to look, you know, bigger because it's getting closer to you. It's foreshortened, and then it's, you know, like sort of goes back into space. It gets, you know, there's a sort of, again, that road, you know, we were looking at the road example, like the road looks like it's getting narrower as it goes, you know, further into the distance. That's, you know, that's an example. When we think about foreshortening, I think we're really kind of talking about what we usually mean is like this is it looks like things are kind of coming out towards you, like through the picture plane, right? Things are like almost that's when things start to get really funny, when it feels like something is breaking through this picture plane that we're talking about, right? It looks like we're looking, you know, it seems like all the time we're looking through it, but if something were to start to come out of our picture plane towards us, that's when things can get really interesting. So again, so this diagram shows you, you know, what it would look like if you were drawing, you know, you're drawing exactly the subject you were looking at, but it's, you know, it's a certain distance away from you on a picture plane. All right. What this diagram from the side shows you with the piece of chalk, the sheet of glass, the distance of the tree, the lines are drawn from the spectator's eye to the tree, and where they go through the sheet of glass, the drawing of the tree has been made. This shows how small it appears to the spectator, right? Again, it's just this sort of concept, you know, however big the tree is, doesn't matter for our drawing. It only matters insofar as it relates to this particular depth from this point, right, to the picture plane point, to the distant background. There's a relationship there. That's how you would start to keep proportions, you know, in mind, by maintaining this particular ratio, right, from point A to, you know, the eye to the picture plane, right, to the object. You maintain that distance, and then you can start to get a proportionate rendering of your subject. Okay, so back up a little bit, right? So now omitting the tree from the diagram, it'll appear like this. From behind, first showing you the sheet of glass, the picture plane, right? And then there's going to be this idea of the eye level. Okay. Secondly, without the plane, this gets a little bit like strange at first. Again, it's helpful for the rest of the book, but I do think this might be something that, you know, it could work its way into your thinking if you like. So yeah, secondly, without the picture plane pane, because this imaginary plane has no limit except for its vertical, and its ground always continues upward and sideways, even downwards, right? So again, we're sort of thinking about this person standing on a plane, the ground plane, and then there's a certain vertical plane, picture plane, between them and whatever they're looking at, right? The picture plane in this case, we're thinking about it being at right angles to the ground plane. This is just basic, right? Again, you could stand on all sorts of uneven terrain. You could think about all sorts of examples where this might not hold, but just to sort of start things off, this is the way that you could imagine it at first. So we said being a vertical plane, it means that it will make right angles to the ground plane, and together it'll look from the side like this, right? Picture plane intersecting with the ground plane 90 degrees, right? So perpendicular, just to sort of think about it. From the front, there's a lot of lines there, I know, hang in there. But if you take all the hatchy lines away, right, you can think about it. Leave it blank, right? The picture plane. Goes on a little bit more. I'll just share this. I'll share this PDF that I have in the chat with you all, so you can have a thought about it. But what that other section was talking about was this idea, right, of some point, right? There's a ground line, right? There's a point where your picture plane touches the ground, right? So when you're starting to sketch things out, when you're starting to like lay out your perspective, you may consider, like the eye level, right? And then you might also consider the ground line. That gives you a distance to start to think about. Again, I'll just sort of show you this, and I'll share it. I think we're to the point where I wanted to, I wanted to sort of move on. I wanted to sort of get it into our mind, this idea of the picture plane. This is I think a really useful concept. The useful concept. Again, it's like you can start to think about it. You can have it in mind, but it really shouldn't become something that like holds you back. But again, this is the illustration of our artist, right, or our observer. They're looking at this object, right, and so as they get further back from the picture plane, right, the angle increases, and there's the angle increases, and then so see the tree is a little bit bigger. As they get closer, right, angle decreases, and then you get this smaller sort of version. Just a relationship of the distance, right, of your eye to this picture plane. So again, it's like it's to reinforce this idea of like of consistency, of relating to something. Relating a single point in space, your eye, right? And then the particular lines that it would draw to a plane, right? 1 point, line, plane. How do you express this? Through shape, through edge, through value. So these are the again, I wanted to try to tie some of these themes together. And, again, this is can be a bit technical, but what you have, if you go through this, you could end up getting to this point where you could actually make, a discernment about, how far away things are.
God,
It's amazing. It really is amazing. But I won't pain you through this like like I used to do to my students. You know what I mean? I would make them like
I
we
still
have to
have
talk
this
about
book,
it.
by the way.
Hell yeah. It's so I really like have used this like approach to draw things, like with a lot of confidence personally. But again, it's a lot of steps to go through. Back in the day, it was how things had to be done. Now we've got, if you use Procreate, it has perspective functions on it that like take care of all these calculations for you, right? Or if you 3D model, right? There's all of this calculation sort of baked into the program. So you have to think about it. Maybe not. It's not life or death that you're sort of that you have to get this so accurate all the time, right? Because we're trying to draw things. We're not architects, but again, it's like, why not push it? Why not sort of give yourself like look into this, because you might well find that it can be very useful. I know it gets crazy, but so this is this perspective apparatus, right? Where you can start to think about, like, again, we kept seeing the viewer, their eye, looking at the eye level. And so you could start to, lay something like this out, and then what you're really getting is vanishing points that you could use to draw things that will give you a very convincing capacity to draw things in perspective, to make like sort of things that they look like they have 90-degree relationship, right? Like a cube or something like that. You can use this system to start to draw those. Again, you can always eyeball it too. You can sort of make up 2 points and, draw a 2-point perspective, and it can be really pretty good. But again, like, where does that come from? This is what we're talking about. Yeah, very cool. Again, like we're talking about, if you live out, and you see mountains, you see trees, you see, anything, it's going to block that eye level, right? Same thing if you're in a room, right? It's like you can't see the distant horizon. Your eye level is, sort of blocked by walls and stuff. Or if you're in an urban environment, same sort of thing. You can't discern where it is. It's a unique phenomenon. We can experience it when we're looking at like vast bodies of water, or if you're on like a very flat plane, if but you probably wouldn't see something so perfectly. It would never perfectly sort of illustrate it, because again, it's conceptual. So, all right, I'm going to jump to this. Okay. All right. So now, hopefully this will. So, thumbnail sketches. This is the point. This is our point I want to get to. All right. So we think about a thumbnail sketch, right? Just a quick sketch, right? Think of your paper representing an open space, as not as like two-dimensionals, not as two-dimensional surface, but as if the edges were the boundaries of an open window, right? So it's sort of thinking about this little picture plane, right? That you're going to sort of interact with. You look at all the life and nature through this window, right? So you either attempt to draw the forms into the space that exists before you. You get a feeling of the actuality of the forms. So what we see here, so we just jumped from, this was Gwen White talking about perspective. Now I'm talking, this is an Andrew Loomis, this is from an Andrew Loomis book, Drawing Success. So what we see in this illustration, our artist started with eye level, with this organizing principle. There's eye level here, and then right? So this person, so our artist here, he started with eye levels, just started thinking about like, this is the height of the eye. This is whatever the viewpoint is, this is where we can see eye level. Light is coming from a particular direction, right? So attempt to either set the forms into this space that exists before you, or give the feeling of actuality to the forms which you create from a knowledge of the laws of nature. We study nature for effects, and then we set them down, right? So this involves dimension, contour, viewpoint, meaning perspective, and lighting. Only through light, which produces all tone and appearance, can we produce a true image of life. So got this quick sketch, right? It looks like there's a road that's meandering back into the distance. And then there are mountains and stuff, right? There are branches of this tree. They break through this eye level. So eye level, eye level is this very, I can't zoom in on it too closely. It's this horizontal line right here, right, running through. And then there are things that they're going to block it, right? They're going to block the eye level, right? Okay. Really, to draw, we can only think of it a single aspect of drawing, such as contour, without the other essentials, but must seek to unify all aspects into a complete and organized whole. So here we see, I'll back up a little bit. So here we can see this space with pos-neg relationships, right? So we have all of these various sorts of tonality that's going on, and this helps us to start to understand what's going on. There's a certain level of value that's happening. It's helping us to sort of understand in this quick little rough, right? This quick little thumbnail. So here's just an example of a few little rough thumbnails. They're very beautiful, I think. But each one of them is concerned with sort of describing a bit of space, an object that's in it, right? And then, of course, the tonal value or the pos-neg relationships. We talked about that last week, right? Like how something is darker than something else, how something is lighter than something else. Through this relationship, we can clarify. Things become clear. Things become, legible, right? There's legibility, right? And that makes sure that you can see something. What becomes readable, right, is like, do you understand what it is, right? So again, maybe it is rough, but if I were to zoom in on this one, right, this becomes legible, of course, because there's an edge, right? There's a boundary, right? But it starts to look like all these lines and shapes come together. I read it as trees, right? Trees, and there's a certain vista, right? There's a certain like sort of distance to it. Simple, I know, but and maybe even redundant, but at the same time, these are concepts that I think can help. How do you clarify things? How do you make them? How do you take from all of this?
This is not simple,
sense?
by the way. I need you to not. It might be simple to you, but it's not. This is not.
I hope that it's not. I hope it's not too complicated either. I just so I don't mean to make it like light of it. The thought is to try to make this very, like, it's so complex, right? Everything, all the sense that we take in. How do we simplify it? So again, we think about like we're looking through a shape through a window. You can then start to compose your own image. If you're looking at life, you may want to try to capture it as close to that as possible. So again, there will be like a certain point in space, and you're looking, and you want to try to keep a consistent distance, and that will help you maintain the proportions and accurately represent what it is you're seeing. So if we want to create something of our own, we want to make our own composition, like we were seeing, so Nicole is drawing Flash, right? We were looking at Steven's drawing earlier. There's a certain, sort of distance we're looking at this object from, right? And there's a certain positive negative relationship. So again, I'm sort of watching Nicole draw, and it's like we can see a sense of perspective, even though they are traditional, like American style Flash, right? There's a sense of depth, like the panther's nose is a little bit further out from the inside of its mouth, right? Its eyes are a little bit further back. How are we getting this, right? Well, there's a overlap, right? This is in front of this is in front of that. This gives us a sense of, movement to space, right? To the back. Same thing with these Andrew Loomis rough thumbnail sketches. How do we tell, that, for instance, let me see if there's one that's a little bit clearer. How do we tell, like, that this, that this figure on this horse, right? It looks like a figure riding a horse. How can we tell, that the figure is on the horse? We can see the leg, right? The leg is in front of the horse's body. The horse's head is in front of this fence or whatever. So there's a layering that starts to happen. This may be intuitive, but again, that's what we're doing, right? We're layering things. That's the same thing with the same idea with the perspective talk that we were talking about. There's a very distant horizon, our eye level, but things are going to be in front of it, right? They're going to start to come in front all the way till they get right up to our picture plane. So, um, so if you are to draw something that looks like it's parallel with the picture plane, let me stop. I'm gonna stop my share for right now. Okay, and give me 1 second. I want to I'll share this. So this is a tattoo that I did recently, and okay.
Oh, I saw
So
that. That was
That's a
I
amazing.
saw
tattoo.
that on Instagram. That is
Badass.
thank
so
you.
awesome.
Well,
Oh my
the
gosh.
the point is to what I wanted to sort of describe here was this idea of picture plane. So how can you
Mm.
make this trompe l'oeil? How can you make it look like it's something that's sitting on something else? The thought is that this would be a flat object that's parallel to our picture plane. That would be the concept behind it. I think I need to add a little bit more drop shadow right there. But this is the thought is right. Like, there's a certain light that's coming down um, and it's shining on this object. So even though it's on a curvaceous body part, it's still kind of giving us this, we're hoping to convey this idea of a flat object that, is sitting on the surface of something, right? Well, what I thought was really what I thought was really helpful, and what helped me, sort of figure out how to make this look this way, is I did a drawing. Let me see if I can share it. Yes. Okay. Okay. So here's the sketch that I did to plan for that tattoo, right? So I thought about all of those aspects, right? Like that it was, there was going to be a certain light source. It was going to be this just a flat representation of the thing, but like all these little threads and stuff. There's a little bit of form to it, so the light's going to hit it, and there's going to be a casted shadow, right? As the light hits this, there's a certain thickness to it, and the light hits it, it's going to cast a little bit of a shadow. So I tried to plan all that stuff out, and I think again, I didn't lay out like eye level. I didn't lay out all of the stuff we were talking about. But what I did do was I considered this, this sort of this relationship to flatness, right? And how I might cast the shadows and how I might sort of bring a little bit of highlight to it. So this was uh, again just kind of like uh, it was an exercise in sort of thinking about that stuff, right? But it was all kind of operating in the background. And then like doing a preparatory sketch, I went through this a few times, just to sort of to figure out what was going to look accurate. But the thought of doing thumbnail sketches, something that's going to, start to convey, a larger picture, a more complicated thing, you know, um, this is something that we do in our drawing sessions, in the reinventing drawing sessions um, that we do every Monday. Stephen and Nicole are there. We'll start off with a concept. We'll have some reference imagery, but we're going to make this little shape, right? We're going to make a little shape, and we're going to try to compose what we're going to draw in these smaller shapes first before we go and, do this more committed, more complicated sort of drawing that we're going to do. And I think that it can be really useful, again, to imagine the shape of that, imagine the shape of what you're going to compose. So just like Stephen showed us today, that you already had that shape of the leg in mind, right? As you were starting to sort of compose the angel wings on it. that was, I think that's very useful and very smart. If you're gonna draw this sheet of flash like Nicole is drawing, likely probably start with that shape of rectangle that the paper is, right? And that's where you could compose things. I know you were talking about you laid out all the designs in Procreate as far as like where to place things first. And so in order for it to look, I think, this organized, that's my guess, is that you probably, we're pretty close to that relationship of that rectangle, I imagine. Is that right? Or am I way
Yes.
off, Nicole? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's smart, right? So if you're going to do something, it's going to be in a square later, you start off with a square as your thumbnail, right? If you know it's going to be a circle or an oval, again, you start with that. But if you're going to do like a tattoo, it can be nice to start with the body part. You know what I mean? You just have the body part there. And you can start with a really small sketch, right? You start with this little thumbnail. And what is it doing? You're trying to represent, the picture plane relationship, right? There's something flat to it. Is it like traveling off into a distance, like tabletop, like the road? You know what I mean? What is the relationship of this sort of single point, of the viewer? They're looking at this thing. Is it flat to them, right? Is it deep to them, right? There are all these sort of considerations. And I think if you want to start to compose things, it can be really helpful and useful to keep that stuff in mind. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope that was interesting and stuff to everybody. I would love to, for you all to share any thoughts that you had about that, or like, again, just I'm gonna
How
put
did you
this
use
thing.
how did you use this perspective idea, these ideas on perspective in the tattoo of the skeleton
Yeah, that was my question.
patchwork?
How do we make it applicable to tattoo designs? Like your skeleton design, I could see different angles of the shadows.
Right.
And then like it's kind of hard to put dimensions in traditional pieces because they're so like two-dimensional. So how do we apply that? Like if it comes to new school designs, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, I
Yeah.
think they're great questions, but so I tried to sort of talk about that a little bit. As far as the, the skeleton one, again, there's a shadow that's being cast, there's a highlight, so again, I am sort of thinking about like form, and then a little bit of depth is a part of it as well. But then again, it's sort of, that's the idea of the picture plane, right? This thing is flat to the picture plane. Right? It's completely parallel to my eye, and that gives us this sense of like I'm looking directly at something, which is
And that the
interesting
light
because,
source is going straight towards it, right? Is that why it's
well, in
causing a
this
shadow?
in this case, I was imagining a light source kind of coming from above. And so that gave me a little, so the roundness of the threading, I was able to sort of think about, oh, there's a highlight, I think it's going to be here. And then the shadow is going to be cast approximately. Like I said, I think I need to add a little bit of shadow because I'm looking at it and it's like, I could see maybe a little more shadow in this spot. But the shadow would be, a certain width, and it would be in a certain place because I'm imagining where the light source is.
Relative to
And
the highlight.
right? Yes,
Oh.
exactly.
It's almost like going to be exact opposite. It's just going to be like,
Exactly. And so
makes sense.
it's just a way to organize it. Now, as far as the traditional American, flash is going, I was also sort of describing that we can use arrangement, right, as a way to sort of think about depth. Depth is happening. So looks like you've made some progress. Let's check out your sheet again. Okay, so how do we get depth in this particular, How are we talking about depth or thinking about depth in this particular instance? Well, I can see that, for instance, this ear is in front of, on the very upper left-hand corner for us, that the ear is in front of the hip, right, of the lady, right? So the panther's ear is in front of the hip. That gives them depth, right? The whiskers are in front of the leg. That gives us more depth. The jawline is behind the leg. That gives us, again, more depth. So it is two-dimensional, but there's an arrangement, and that starts to convey the idea this is in front of that. This is closer to my eye in relation to a particular picture plane. You may not be thinking about it, right? But whenever we look at anything and you stop to sort of freeze the scene, so to speak, right? That's kind of on an imaginary level, we're thinking like that, like roughly. Again, with the sort of, if you look through a camera at a viewfinder, again, there's a sort of fixed sort of picture plane you're looking through, and it's like everything's in relation to that. Again, I think what's really interesting about this other panther design, that has the roses on top, because of their relationship to the edge of the panther, right? It starts to look like design on the body rather than a rose in front of. And that's a part of what makes tattoos so interesting, right? Because again, a lot of times, like even in these designs that we've talked about, we've given them their respect, right? That they have a old school design, they have a two-dimensional quality. Even still, they're still talking about depth to a certain degree. So any design, like with a tattoo, there's some sort of there's a little bit of that in it, a little bit of talking about depth. And so as it comes in relationship to the edge of the body, it's like you're looking in and you're seeing this sort of a deeper quality, and then it becomes a part of another surface. There's a fascination to it. That's a part of, it's part of how I think about it.
So,
Again, go ahead.
is it like the concept of like foreground, midground, and background?
Yeah, that's the same. That's depth. There's something that's closer. What is it closer to? It's closer to your eye, right? It's closer to the viewer's point of view. Foreground. Midground is relationship to how far away something is. Background, it's far off from a particular point in space that we're looking at, right? And then there's a sort of consistency that would help us to understand what's going on. And so, like, in the case of, like, let's say that somebody loved your page and they decided that they wanted to get their whole, this is their sleeve, right? They wanted to get each one of these designs. Well, again, it would be very similar, I think, like on on an appearance level. So like where we have on this panther, over here on the right-hand side, where the designs are sitting on the surface. And so it's like I move from this rose in the middle, and I go over to maybe the rose over on the left, right? And they go over to the rose over here on the far right. And then I go back to the left and then back to the middle. And so you're seeing all of these different elements, right? But then again, they're on a particular surface. That would be, I think, sort of how we would sort of view somebody's tattoos as well, is that, you would sort of might kind of fixate on like one particular area, right? And then you'll move around. The eye is moving throughout. But at a certain point, it starts to occur to you, like, what you're actually looking at. I'm actually looking at somebody's arm, or I'm actually looking at somebody's back, or something like that. So there's this oscillation. So again, it's sort of that might very well be what happens when we're looking at paintings and stuff, right? That you start to think about the scene you're looking at, and then you start to realize, like, oh, I'm looking at a painting. I don't know. That's the way I've always thought about it. That's the way that I've come to sort of appreciate what it is that we're doing, rather than saying that there's this sort of, it has to be a certain way. right? That we're actually all playing around with the appearance and the perception.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mhm.
That we're sort of playing with language in a certain way. Our body has a language. There's a language to these images that we, that we make, sort of. So when we juxtapose them on, on top of the other, it starts to make, all sorts of new phrases, all sorts of new expressions. And so, yeah, that's where I think I'm able to, because it's not everybody like appreciates every style. I don't know if I guess I appreciate every style, I suppose, but how do you appreciate styles that aren't your own? And it's like, it's that way, sort of thinking about it on a, about how it expresses things.
Mhm.
I hope that was helpful. I hope that was made sense in some way, because it really is. Um, it's somewhat subjective, right? There's a bit of subjectiveness
Mm.
to how we experience things, how we appreciate things. But I guess I do like to think about like what are some efficient ways, useful ways to be able to um, communicate a particular thought to other people. Um, so in this instance, we're looking at your flash. There is a bold line that sort of separates where this, let's say, the eagle's head is from the background, where the eagle's head is from its own body,
Mhm.
right? And again, it's kind of like, that's what makes it sort of first legible, but then we look for the other shapes, we look for the other relationships, and then we can start to read it. Like, how can we possibly read a panther's head on an eagle's back? It's because, on a certain level, it doesn't make sense, but then on another one, it's kind of like, well, there it is. I can see it. There's a bit of depth, and there's foreground, middle ground, and background is being expressed, even though it's tight. You know what I mean? It's the depth of field is fairly shallow in certain respect, like it doesn't go back forever. Um,
Mhm.
our eyes meet a certain plane, and then we start to relate all these other things together. I hope that sort of ties to a part of what we were talking about. That perspective is kind of happening all the time, um, and there are ways to think about it. Just layering things on top of one thing on top of the next. Again, I think is a way of forcing perspective. But you can also sort of imagine it as a mathematical equation as well, and start to express it, um, in with exactitude. And
Mhm.
you can build buildings based on it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You can build great structures and stuff, because like architecture was happening before iPads and stuff. you know and it had to start off with a conceptual sketch first, right? With a thumbnail sketch that got built up, more and more complexity, until the thing was realized. So yeah, that was my attempt to sort of try to tie together, like, you know perspective, thumbnail sketches, this and the other ideas that we've been talking about. That there's a point, a line, plane, shape, edge, value. All of
Mhm.
those things, they're all things that we're using all the time to be expressive. Giving them a name, thinking about them, I think can help you start to organize. Like, if you want to compose something new, you can start to think about, how are you using these things. Um, and again, some of it might be really intuitive, kind of based on our familiarity with looking at other works of art, based on our
Mhm.
familiarity with, like, looking at the world and looking at how nature works.
Mhm.
Um, these are things that are, uh, they all go into how we make art. So
Mhm.
I again, I'm gonna I'm gonna put that PDF in the chat for you all, just so you all have it.
Yeah, because I want to
I'd
Yeah,
download
imagine,
that.
yeah, that
yeah.
would
Go
be
ahead, please.
great.
Mhm.
I would imagine that as complex as these things are, they're also very static. Like it's always these are laws that just don't change. And so as much as we come back to it, as much as we come to learn it, um, it'll it'll remain the same. Just as the way light hits a spherical object the same way in China as it does here. Um, these are principles we can always rely on. In other words, basically.
I hope so. I really do hope so. I hope.
I
Well,
know,
I hope
right?
it's useful. No, I do. I just hope that it becomes something that can be useful for you. Without. Okay, there's that. It's loading, so hopefully, yeah. I hope that these are useful things for you, right? And so as your I come up against it all the time. I think it's like how do I convey this? And so um, if I can relate it to if I can really relate it to something that's like you're talking about perspective, light source, uh, you know, uh, proportions. If I can relate it to these things, I will. If not, I think that's the prerogative of the artist is to stylize and to simplify, right? We still always have that.
Mhm.
So I think it's there again. It's just not this. There's not this right answer. There's always these. There's always these discernments that we have to make. We have to
Mm-hmm.
discern like what's going to be the best course for your particular project that you're working on.
Mhm.
But getting, familiarizing yourself with the things you're interested in is, I think is a really great way to go. There is this subject called fundamental, we refer to it as fundamentals, and it is really about, the things that we've just been talking about this simple idea of you start with a particular point in space, it creates a line, it creates a plane, it's a shape, there's an edge, and then there's value. Wrapped up in that is this thought of like that there has to be a certain perspectival point of view that's happening for any of that to transpire. And then how do you develop it, like in a way that's efficient through the planning, right? Through thumbnail sketches and stuff. Through planning it out, right? But again, I think those are means to a particular end, right? So if you are to, probably it might be unhelpful for you to labor over a thumbnail sketch for, forever and ever and ever and just try to get it right. Instead, it would be like try to get the essence of what it is you're trying to convey. Then
Mhm.
that will help you. That'll help you to guide yourself or to inform you for the thing that you're actually trying to do, the thing that you actually care about.
Mhm.
So I think those are yeah, I think I don't know. I guess I hope that was I hope that starts to um, to inspire you, right? To sketch more and to just to be looser about it, even though there's all this technical stuff, right? Just have fun with it and start to express through that process. You're going to come up with something amazing. You'll surprise yourself, but you know my tendency a lot of times is to like just forego this designing phase and just to get right in there and do it. And it's like so often the case, like your first drawing of the day may not be your best one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Yeah.
can if you can if you can start to be disciplined enough to loosen up.
Just gotta
Yeah,
simplify in the beginning and then
I
build
think
up.
so. Hmm. I hope so. Yeah, I hope that that's what I really want to convey. Um, is is that is that we're again, we're looking at the world. We're seeing so much all the time. So whether that's you're looking at life and you want to draw it, or you're looking at some crazy biomech tattoo and you're like, I want to do that, whatever the case may be, you want to end there, but you got to start at a point, right? You have to start with a single point and move out from there. And so, you know, keeping in mind, your own perspective is important. You know, keeping in mind that your values are important. Keeping in mind, that you have to plan, right? Or that planning is going to be beneficial to your process. Like
Mhm.
those are ways that that can help, right? That can help you start to achieve the things that you're really interested in. So
Well, it seems
I'm
like it's
and I'm
supposed to.
talking to myself.
You're not
Yeah,
talking to yourself,
yeah, I
but
am.
Not at all. Not at all.
I am.
I am
You
soaking
all
it
unless
all
here.
unless
in,
we're
bro.
all like the little homunculuses in your in your head, but no, it
No,
seems like it's supposed to
yeah.
take some of the guesswork or at least some of the pressure off of the final product. Because I know, like, if you jump straight into the final thing every single time, it's always going to feel very dire trying to
Yes.
do it. Like, so
Dire, that's a good word.
yeah, because you're always working to try and make it the best piece that you can possibly make it.
Mhm.
It's better to make a mistake on, hey Danny, it's better
Hey,
to
Danny.
the people on my call say hello. But I completely lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, I have ADD. But
I have the same issue. But me
Well,
too. You're
yeah,
just talking about simplifying shapes and just how it makes things die. It's dire at the end.
yeah. So if you try to jump straight into the final piece, it makes it so much more dire when you make a mistake. Whereas if you make it on like a little sketch, you can always just draw another little sketch. Whereas you're doing the final piece and you're like, oh no, I made a mistake that I could have fixed if I had planned it out, but now it sucks and I have to start all over again.
Save so much
Right.
time to just start with a small thumbnail and then like have everything down that way instead of drawing out on a big piece and then you have to move everything all over again. At
Yeah.
least me,
Yeah.
additional pieces. Yeah.
I completely agree with what you all are saying, and I think a part of it is like the the complexity that we were sort of getting into earlier, because things are complicated, right? And that's so that little thumbnail sketch that
thumbnail
we're talking about.
simplify it.
That's right. That's what makes it so valuable, is that you can really start to put together all of those it's really complicated things, really complicated elements, and that way you're gonna put your best foot forward, I suppose. So anyway, I really enjoyed. I always enjoy talking about perspective because it's just one of those things that I've always been interested in, and so thank you all for for listening and for your questions and stuff. Again, I put the PDF in the chat for anybody who's interested. Please feel free to to grab that.
Oh, I already
And
downloaded it.
cool.
Me
No,
too.
that's cool. I just wanted to make sure like that. So this is for the this is the first part of this. It's a much larger book. Um, it's but it is, I think. Again, we were, I was at the shop and we were talking about like lettering, right? And BJ Betts has a lettering book. So for those of you who tattoo and stuff, you may be familiar with BJ Betts. Like amazing lettering, and it's like you can't just look on the internet and just find all that stuff all the time. There is knowledge in books, right? That in like physical books. That's still like it's not always right there to to sort of steal for free. You know what I mean? So find the books that you like and buy them up and
I have
and
so
use
many
them.
lettering books.
Good. Yeah, hang on to those. Practice with them. I think that's that's like
Yeah.
get good at lettering. I mean, lettering is beautiful. I think there's still this. That's almost this sort of strange kind of thing where what the things that we were talking about almost like shift away, like figure ground. How do we read letters and stuff? But at the same time, it's like it's so abstract. It's causing something else in our imaginations, not this spatial relationship that we were talking about with eye level and distance and picture planes and stuff. But that
Yeah.
the written word is like is about like there's a time that's associated with it, right? You have to read the whole word, maybe even the whole sentence, maybe the whole paragraph to get to what is being said there and what's being meant. After you're done reading it, then you go back and say, "Oh, this was about this." So,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, Stephen has to go. Thank you, Stephen.
Bye, Stephen. Good luck.
Hopefully, we'll see you
Crush
next
it.
week. Yeah, exactly.
I gotta go too, guys, actually.
Yeah, it is that time. Let's do a sign off real quick. So please, thank you all so much for hanging out. This was a extra long one, but again, thank you so much.
It
So
went by like that. So
As always.
it did for me, certainly. So, so yeah, let's do some sign off. Spirit, you gotta go. Go ahead and
Yeah.
tell us where we can find you.
You guys can find me at Tattoos by Spirit. Everything spelled correctly on Instagram, TikTok, as well as my website. Yeah, just moved to a new shop, guys. So come and see me. Just come by and say hi. If you're listening out there in the cyber audience, make sure to hit that like button and press the subscribe button. It really goes a long way. Love you guys. You guys take care. See you next Monday.
Thanks,
See ya.
Spirit.
have
All right,
fun.
bye-bye. All right, thank you so much, Amber. You too.
All right. Yeah. So who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Cool. Thank you, Elise.
I am Elise. I'm a 3D artist, and you can find me on ArtStation and Instagram at Elise Morrow Visuals. And I have to go to class.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.
Alrighty, see ya.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye, Elise. All right, Amber, give us your sign off.
I am Amber Morgaine, and you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook under Amber Morgaine and at Luxury Tattoos in Egg Harbor City, New Jersey.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming. And it was, again, it was always a pleasure.
Thank you for hosting, as always.
I'm so excited that things are going well with your new shop. So, so keep it up and,
It's partially thanks to you, so thank you.
Well, you did the work, right? So thank you. Thanks for coming. And it really was, it's great to have you as always. So thanks, Amber.
Thank you for giving me the tools.
Oh, no problem. Nicole, give us your sign off and we'll get out of here.
Yep, you can find me under Nicole Williams Art on Instagram and TikTok. And I'll see you tonight.
Awesome. Yeah, can't wait. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm James Wisdom. You can find me on Instagram, Tattooing Wisdom, and also my website, tattooingwisdom.com. I just want to thank you all. If you're still with us, and we'll see you next stream. All right. Bye.
Bye.